everyone, and welcome to episode 56 of Lesbian Talk.
Lesbians.
How are you?
All over the place. I'm fine. How are you?
Exhausted. My editing computer is on its... I think it's approaching last legs, but I'm gonna have to get it repaired. Right now I'm trying to transfer everything off it because I've got episodes unfinished on it, and I wanna make sure that if it dies, it doesn't take everything I've done down with it.
That sounds really epic. As though it would just, suddenly explode like the Death Star.
If it explodes, I'll be like, God damn it, I gotta pay for a new fucking thing, which I can't afford, and I'd have to, put a PayPal thing or something, and, let's just say that if that does happen, there will be very few videos from me for quite a while, probably, unless people, give me money to help me with a new one.
I think what you should do first, which is totally within your spending reach, is to buy a new mouse.
That's got nothing to do with the Mac, and it will not save the Mac.
She's got this old mouse, and it hardly even works. You have to clomp it around. And you could buy a new mouse, probably even a wireless mouse, for £1. You could literally go to Poundland, probably, and buy one. And for some reason, you were I can't even. She's
talking about my PC, because I have a PC which I use for my writing and for Skype and all, because I have a Mac for editing, because whenever I went to college, I learned how to edit on a Mac, and I've used Avid, and I've used Media 100, and I've even cut spool to spool and done videotape to videotape and everything, but the only true way to edit video is Final Cut, and so I use that for that, and I can use it for nothing else. Apparently Skype works on the Mac. I can't make it work. I tried. So I just edit there.
Well,
I'm
you
lucky.
Get a new mouse.
I'm lucky. I'm smart enough to have an internet browser there, so I can tweet while I'm there.
Well, it's not a matter of you being smart enough. It's a matter of the computer's capabilities.
No, it's got the capabilities for a lot of things which I can't make it do because Macs are completely different from PCs, and I have no idea how to run them properly.
This is very true. Even though the first personal computer that I used was an Apple IIe.
I know a lot of people who know computers. That's usually I get my assistance from my brother or whatever, but I know no one who knows anything about Macs, and the Mac's issue is it's getting old, and it seems to be a mechanical, physical problem.
Well, I was going to say you could ask Nash, because Nash knows everything, but he'd probably just tell you, get a PC, and you'd be like, oh.
Yeah.
That's not what I wanted you to tell me.
What I'm going to do is try to extract everything that I can and talk and see if I can investigate looking up to a computer repair place. See if there's any of the local computer repair places do Macs. If they don't, then I will have to go to the Mac store in Belfast.
Take that, Steve Jobs. Oh, well.
I think he's taken quite enough already right now.
Pretty much. So, above and beyond that, how are you?
Oh, tired. I was up until 7 in the morning trying to fix my computer last night.
I know, because you texted me at the equivalent of 2 a.m. I don't know what you thought that I would do from America.
I was warning you.
Oh.
And then I was up a few hours later, so I am fucking exhausted.
Well, we'll make this quick. Well, I mean, we'll still make it an hour, but,
Yeah. So I'm transferring footage, and I'm going to try and finish off Regorgitated Sacrifice tonight, and because it's almost finished. I'm going to try and do flubs for that. I'm going to try and finish off what I've got of rock and roll, what I've got filmed a bit, edit that together. Hopefully
That's what I'm excited for, because I took notes for that.
And
I'm really pleased with the notes that I took, too.
And Regorgitated Sacrifice is the one that you don't even want to see.
I don't want to, watch people throwing up. I don't like that. It's weird. It makes me want to throw up.
I don't like it either.
Yeah, well, you're the reviewer, so there you go. I'm the audience. I have a choice.
You're going to miss, important story elements if you don't watch Regorgitated Sacrifice.
You could synopsize it for me.
I mean, I sent you the thing that I sent you the clip that I thought would amuse you.
It did amuse me.
Okay.
I just, if I can avoid watching other people throw up, usually that's what I tend to do. But that's just me as a person, really.
Well, you're strange. Avoiding the Vomit Gore trilogy.
How it even could be, we don't even know.
Although, this one, it features another appearance by Jesse Ventura. And at one point he said, "Did you know, ... it's true."
Oh no, Lewis stole my line.
Well, it wasn't scripted like that, he just ad-libbed it, and it just came across very, very Giovanni.
Giovanni, that makes me happy. I tell you what, that's still my favorite flub ever, was the ones that that Lewis did for the original Jesse Ventura, the first one that he was.
Well, since the footage he sent me was about 10 minutes long, what I might do is, again, upload just his raw footage.
Because I love that.
He is rather special, and I hope to bring him back in a future episode.
That's awesome. But anyway, so, Lesbian Talk. So, this week, we forgot the last time we used the dictionary and can't be asked to go look it up. So, actually, I had something that I wanted to talk about. And this came from an article that Gomer shared. I think it was because his Tumblr links up to his Twitter, so he'll tumble a thing and it tweets a thing. And I went and did some digging about this. And so there's this guy. Notice I say this guy. He doesn't appear to be a medical professional in any way, shape, or form. Who has this all-new autism cure, he says. And what it boils down to is bleach enemas. Taking bleach, mixing it with water, and I think a few other things, and then shooting it right up you. Well, right up someone else, really, with you helping. And I was horrified by this. I was like, how could anyone really think this is an accurate thing? How could they think this is science? And then it made me think of this new trend that I noticed on the internet, where it's kind of like, I remember back, this was maybe a year ago, when everyone was putting that fake copyright notice up on Facebook. Do you remember that, honey?
Actually, I don't, but it does sound like the sort of thing people do on Facebook.
It was like, adherent to code so-and-so, which didn't even exist. Nothing I say on Facebook can be used for any kind of advertisement properties, and everything is now copyright, you can't touch it, ha ha ha. Which is, first of all, not how copyright law works. And second of all, is not how Facebook works either. Because you can, quote, pretend laws as much as you want, you still signed a terms of service agreement. But it struck me at the time, like, really tribal. Like, kind of like how, people don't really understand legal stuff anymore. They know that lawyers can use, quote-unquote, the law to do pretty much about anything. So it seemed to me almost that people were using this like a magic spell. Like, I chanted the legal words, and now my stuff is safe from copyright. Is there a name for that?
Sounds a little bit like how some people think this is quite often in fiction, that science works like magic. That, you get some stuff together, you do futz around with it in a few seconds, and then voila! I've got an anti-gravity displacement cannon.
Oh, hold on a second. Well, I hacked the CIA. It's done. Time for a montage. Yeah,
it's a little bit more innocent when it's done in fiction, because it's fictional. But when people attempt to pull it in real life, I can remember there was some person said the line that someone's ignorance is not as good as someone else's knowledge.
I guess kind of. Or it's like, we see those sidebar ads where like, this one weird trick invented by a mom cures everything. Doctors hate her. And whenever I see something like that, I want to be like, yeah, doctors hate her. Because people believe that what she's giving them is actual medical advice. And then the doctors have to clean up what's left over. Like, the idea that, you always see there's like, it's always a picture of some kind of weird jungle fruit. And it's like, bring your high blood pressure down forever with this one special superfood. And superfoods are, by and large, a lie. I mean, food can be really healthy and have multiple benefits for you. That's certainly true, but no. There's not like some incredible fruit that they've been eating for thousands and thousands of years in a country kind of close but not really, that we've just discovered cures cancer. It doesn't work like that.
Actually, that sounds a little bit like why people started eating quinoa. Quinoa, sorry. Not obviously literally the same thing, but they're like, oh, this is better for you, and it's close but not really far away.
That's true, although I eat quinoa because I like it, so.
You like the taste of it, and you're...
Well, I like it because it has that little, it's got that little bit curled up in it that's like the germ of the grain, and I like when you bite that, it kind of pops. I like that.
See that? Omega likes germs. I think there's a load of different things all at play there. You've got some people who are inventing bullshit in order to sell it. You got other people who are believing that bullshit but still profiting of it. And you got a bunch of other people who are trying to feel like they got a life hack, or they're trying to feel smarter than the so-called eggheads. What the fuck do they know? You got a bunch of different things all playing together there.
It's just, if you're an anti-vaxxer, well, first of all, no offense or nothing, if I think you're an idiot. Feel free to unsubscribe from my Blip channel. But if it's your decision, that's totally cool. You know, you do what you want. It's your life and stuff like that. But I think it was the idea. I mean, if you want to take a bleach enema, it's a free country. I mean, there's no one stopping you. It's probably not a good idea, but you can. If that's what gets you off, you go to town. But the fact that this is being done on children, on special needs children, it's just, and some of the people, it's like some of the blogs, because I, of course, had to follow the links, you know, people are like, well, I noticed that he was really fussy for the next few days with a lot of vomiting and diarrhea. Oh my God! You are basically committing child abuse on a special needs child.
Well, honestly, it varies country by country, but abusing children, you know, because of religion, this is not a new thing.
Oh yeah, I know, like the people that well, they're starting to get thrown in jail now.
I mean, the people who, the Christian Scientists who refuse to take their children to doctors and stuff?
Yeah, like there was a couple, and this happened in Pennsylvania, who that either they had had a child that was seriously injured or had died from the medical treatment previously, and they were basically told by the state, we're watching you. And they did it again, and another child died, and they were both sentenced to jail time. A few years, I think.
Yeah, but the fact that they only got a few years for essentially by deliberately omitting treatment, and you know they at the very least manslaughtered their child.
Yeah, I know, and it's horrifying, but that's the kind of shit that people, you know, abuse freedom of religion to get away with.
It's their second child they've done it to, and they only get a couple of years.
It might be more than that. I don't have the actual story in front of me, but I know they did get jail time. I don't know how much though, because it could have been more than that. This
is regardless. It's religion giving you special dispensation because your religion says that it's a good idea for child abuse, and I'm not sure where in the Bible it says thou shalt take an autistic child and shove bleach up them.
Well, see, the thing is that the bleach thing, that isn't a religious thing. So for once, we can give religion a pass in this case.
Oh, I thought it was a religious thing.
No, it's just a kind of similar thing to that kind of stuff. But like, it's one thing to be like, you know, my child is very ill. I'm going to take them to Lourdes so we can pray. It's another thing to put bleach into their intestines. I mean, first of all, bleach is toxic. It is toxic. It causes the deaths of cells. It's not good. But people, you know, like those people that sell those kinds of things you read about online where, oh, you take this powder with water every day for a month and you completely clean out your colon. And, you know, people are like, yes, it's true, my shit turned 3 different colors. And you're basically, because they had this thing on the morning show once, in Philadelphia where Steve Morrison of the Preston and Steve Show decided to do one of these. And he was describing the kind of stuff that was going down. And I was like, this can't be real. So I looked into it, and basically what you're doing is you're shedding the lining of your intestine. Yeah. But people who don't understand medicine and science, it's like, you know, a friend of mine, her parents were hippies, you know. They were all very hippies. And her dad was always going, yep, that's how they get you. That's how they get you. Soon you'll be taking Tylenol every day because you don't even know you don't need it. And like the people who believe that, you know, that are AIDS deniers. You know, I just...
Oh, yeah, the most famous AIDS denier in the world, and he's not famous for being an AIDS denier, but he's the most famous person who was an AIDS denier, is Dave Grohl from the Foo Fighters.
I know, you told me this like a little bit ago, and I couldn't believe it, because I always admired him as a musician, you know?
But the thing about the shedding the lining of your intestines, now obviously this is less severe than that, but there's quite a common use of the same sort of thing. Tooth whitening toothpaste. Do you know what that does?
Yeah, it strips off the outermost layer of enamel.
Yeah, you're getting, the reason your teeth are white is because the out layer is being destroyed. You are destroying the thing in order to make it look better. And that's the same sort of thing that the intestine stuff does. People want an easy fix to things.
And sometimes though there's not even anything wrong. Like, I've noticed a new class of sidebar ads on websites which will like show a silhouette of someone and name like 3 random symptoms that have no relationship with each other, like a white-coated tongue, you know, which is indicative of thrush, or, you know, a yeast infection in the mouth, some kind of chemical imbalance in the mouth, you know, of like headaches, and like toenail fungus. Click here. Like, because I can see people being like, well, I have all of those things. I probably have it. No, you don't. They just want to sell you something. Or like the new thing is that I've seen a lot at the bottom of like Cracked articles and, you know, other websites that have ads like, you all these Americans are infected with quote unquote belly bugs. And you need to, you know, people don't realize that they have significant intestinal parasites. No clinical name for these, just quote unquote belly bugs, which is designed to sound viscerally unpleasant.
And when we have literally thousands upon thousands upon thousands of little organisms living inside us and on top of us all the fucking time.
True, and the thing is that, like, but it's designed for someone to be like, oh no, well, it's a good thing I found out from this website. No one else must believe it because they're sheeple. They don't know, but I know the way, and I'm going to take this. There's nothing wrong with you. If you had an intestinal parasite, eventually you would know. Like, people who actually get intestinal parasites, they find out pretty quickly. It's just, and I want to rail against it. But then I realized, am I railing against con men who are taking advantage of people? Or am I really railing against ignorance? I can't decide.
Well, we rail against both of them. The only negative reaction to it I can think of is being okay with it happening because it's only stupid people being conned. Which I come across that idea a lot, and it really irritates me because how dare people suggest that it's okay because the victim was stupid? Well,
there's two different things, though, that I've always maintained. I think we've brought this up on another show, but if you're a new listener, it's new to you. That there's a significant difference between not being intelligent and ignorance, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah.
If you're not intelligent, you're not intelligent. Some people aren't intelligent. You know? You just aren't intelligent. That's how you were born. You know? That's fine. No biggie. You know, that's nothing to be ashamed of. You know, there are some people who are special needs. They're not intelligent. That's just how it goes sometimes. But
like intelligence is the quality of your car, and ignorance is whether you get a driver or not.
Right, but people who are ignorant are kind of like proud of not knowing.
Not everyone who is ignorant is proud of not knowing. You got people
how I use the word ignorance. That's how the word feels to me. Somebody who is deliberately proud of not knowing.
Well, I would call that a subcategory of ignorant. Proudly ignorant. You know, that would be a subcategory. You got people who have just never come across it before.
Well, okay, let's narrow this down, because if I take everyone in the world, that's a big margin. Because obviously, you know, people in Southeastern Asia might live in a village, not be able to Google. Let's say, you know, the population of the United States, most of whom have access to Google, which, okay, so it wasn't around when we were a kid, but it's the pretty most reliable way to get, hopefully, at least kind of accurate information. Like, if you Google what is AIDS, you can probably find immediately pictures of the actual AIDS virus.
Yeah, but that's assuming that everyone has the same interests / things around them for them to come across stuff. Every single day you got people coming out across stuff that we think is really obvious and common. It's just, not everyone's going to know, even stuff we think is basic is going to be new to someone.
That's a good point.
It's, like, for instance, honey, now, Dwamathrax the Indestructible, okay? Are you ignorant of him, or are you, have you never heard of him before?
I am unaware of him.
Actually, you're wrong, because you saw a film that featured him, and I just chose to use the name.
Well, I thought you were making something up. I have no idea. You don't remember every film.
See, that's my point. You don't know that you knew it, so therefore you are sort of, like, not just ignorant. You are proudly ignorant. I don't know what point I was making. I just want people who watch the Dead Gentleman's Demon Hunter series to go, Hagen said Dwamathrax the Indestructible. This is amazing.
Did you have a point?
I did originally, but then I sort of forgot it before I started talking.
Victory mine! Flawless victory. But I just come across this so much, and it's just, you know what it reminds me of? And our listeners who have read this book will be right with me. But everybody else might have to Google it. It's kind of like in Canticle for Leibowitz. Part of the background that you're introduced to at the beginning of the book is that there has been a total nuclear war, followed by centuries of radiation fallout and people who are, you know, born horribly disfigured, and it's a world that's putting itself back together. And right after what they call the flame deluge, what happened was something that they called the Great Simplification. And pretty much they all said, you know who got us into this? All those scientists and politicians and smart people. If they were simple, it wouldn't be a problem. Yeah, we'll all be simple. We'll have a town, and we'll call it Simple Town. Hi, I'm a simpleton. Are you a simpleton too? And they went through massive, massive purges of information, of book burning. And one of the characters,
That's the end of Battlestar Galactica.
Yes, this was written in the 50s before that happened. I know, right? Well, pretty much A Canicle for Leibowitz is one of the first of the true post-apocalyptica. This was back, in the 50s when everyone thought that might happen next week.
Are you saying that Battlestar Galactica is reminiscent of something that came before it? Say it isn't so!
I know, right? But pretty much, you had this engineer, spoiler alert, well, I'm not going to tell you the ending, so go read it if you haven't, it's a really great book, who, Isaac Leibowitz, who survived, the flame deluge, and even though he was probably, from all context in the book, he was Jewish, he became one of these Bindlestaffers, one of these people who would smuggle books and information, different places, and one of the groups that he hooked up with was a group of monks. And eventually he was caught, and burned at the stake by, the angry, quote-unquote, simple masses. But these monks pledged themselves to do this in his memory, and they were always trying to get him canonized as a saint, which, eventually happens in the book.
It's like the end of the Omega Man.
This happened before that.
Ha
ha ha ha. Got you now. You're like, but film, and I'm like, but it happened first in the book.
Wait a sec, I Am Legend by Richard Matheson. I don't know which of these came out first. Although the Omega Man's ending is totally different from I Am Legend's ending. And I Am Legend starring Will Smith is a completely different ending from I Am Legend the book.
I will Google it. But the point is, these monks became the monks of Blessed Leibowitz became known for their collection of all these different bits of information from before the flame deluge. And it reminded me so much of that sometimes that, a great percent of the population would be the kind of people to just say, oh, let's burn all the books. Yeah, those smarties got us into it. Well, you know what? I can stick bleach up my ass and cure autism, so there you go. And that's viscerally frightening to me. And then I think maybe I'm just being snotty because I'm, an academic, but I don't know.
Okay. This is one thing I've probably inherited from my father, who is,
I Am Legend was originally published in 1954. Let me get you the other one.
Okay.
All right, Canicle for Leibowitz, published date. And audience, seriously, if you've not read this book, find a copy. Walter M. Miller. There was a sequel that he wrote, but it turned out to be not as popular, and he unfortunately ended his life. I don't know what year, but I can probably find that out too. Published date 1959. So I Am Legend did predate it.
Dun dun dun.
But we don't know when he started writing it, so
that's true.
I will still stick up for Walter M. Miller.
I probably inherited this from my dad, who he's a retired doctor, but he absolutely hates alternative medicine.
Oh, and yeah, we should when we're both over there, we should have him on to talk about this.
Yeah, he absolutely hates it, which is really amusing because one of his closer friends does homeopathy, and another one of his friends does chiropractic. But
well, chiropractors are considered legitimate medical practitioners in the U.S.
Well, my father is not impressed with chiropractors.
I get the feeling your father's not impressed with a lot of things.
When it comes to medicine, basically he has the opinion, which I share, that there is no alternate medicine. If it was medicine, you would not have to call it alternate medicine. It's either medicine or it's not.
That's the same way that I feel whenever I have to shelve that section at work.
Yeah, it's not an alternative medicine. It's not medicine. Unless it's scientifically verified in full-on proper ways, then it's not medicine. It's people attempting to cargo cult medicine.
Kind of like witch doctory.
Well, witch doctory has its basis in a lot of shaman traditions and a lot of sort of old wives' tales and stuff in herbalism and stuff, which a lot of it can actually have truth to it. I'd say these guys have less truth than witch doctors on average.
We had your dad on and be like, Dr. Father-in-law, so how do you feel about this one weird old trick invented by a mom? Do you hate her? And he'd be like, what?
She can go fuck herself.
Well, he's probably never on, the actual internet, so. He probably seen a banner ad.
No, he is. He recently discovered the Honest Trailers.
Oh, awesome. And guys, if you're not subscribed to Honest Trailers on YouTube, it's probably time. Just saying.
Yeah, my father is all over the internet. He last week he was regaling me with tales about how he was trolling his friends on his Facebook. He discovered this website where you could create stupid deepities, which are like something that sounds deep and meaningful but actually isn't if you think about it logically. You know the sort of bullshit, like here's a saying from this wise mystic, you know that sort of thing.
Oh, like, the thing that I've always heard where people, well, I had one guy say to me, he goes, the only common denominator in all of your failures is you. Think about that. And that made me feel terribly guilty until you said, but wait a second, they're your failures. Of course you'd be the common denominator. I was like, oh yeah.
You're the common denominator. You're the common denominator in all your successes too. But
oh wow.
He found a website where he could actually write his own, and they would invent a person, and so he invented these trolling quotes, which look at a glance like this sort of thing, but they're actually like parodies, and he was putting them on his Facebook wall to see who liked them and who.
Oh, it's a good thing we're not friends on Facebook, because I might have been like, just like sometimes I'll like people's statuses just so they still know I exist. Like I have some coworkers. And, like, they'll post their pictures of their kids on Facebook, and occasionally I'll be like, oh, I'll just like that picture. Their kids are cute, just so you know I'm still watching, I'm still caring. So it's a good thing I didn't be like, oh, hello, father-in-law, I'll just like that post. You'd be like, aha, Omega, I got you now. And I'll be like, oh, well.
I remember he was incredibly proud that he got 2 of his friends to like the comment, and they made comments afterwards which indicated to him that they were not being ironic. From, the saying he invented from the great Chinese ancient, philosopher Qi Ting.
Oh, come on. Seriously? Seriously?
So
shame
that
on
shows,
you, Dr. Father-in-Law. Shame on you.
So this indicates how much my father dislikes alternative medicine and stuff of that sort. He goes out of his way to troll his friends with it.
But it's just, like I said, if it's your own choice, it's your own choice. But I think that's what makes me so upset is, I know people who have autistic children. And I know some people who have children who are significantly autistic, like nonverbal, probably will need full-time care for the rest of their life kind of thing. And I know how much of a desire there is, especially for these kinds of parents, to hear their child say, I love you, or to get something from a special needs child, just like a look, or just any kind of response.
And we know it's, incredibly difficult, especially considering, not everyone can be Sandal and create enchantments.
Listen, you. I was all serious, and you had to bring it back to Dragon Age. But no, you always
I like Odin.
No, but I understand. You always hear about caretakers of significantly special needs children who, and I think this just happened in London, where, the mother caretaker just snapped and killed the children. And then usually they'll try to kill themselves. So I know that a caretaker's burden is horrific, but the idea that, some people are so desperate that they're willing to grasp at straws, but the idea that you actually think shooting bleach into your child is a good thing,
They're desperate, and they see autism as something, as the child is damaged or broken and therefore can be cured, when they can't handle the fact that the child is not broken. The child is just wired differently. It's one of the great variety of humankind. Well, it's not a defective human being.
The higher parts of the spectrum, this is correct. Autism is a physical difference in the brain. Neurologically, we have been able to prove it is a physical difference in the brain. But the top of the spectrum, you have Asperger's, PDD-NOS, stands for pervasive developmental delay, not otherwise specified, meaning not being caused by anything else. But then, you do have the profound autism that really does, mimic classic mental retardation. And I do feel for those parents that have almost vegetative children, because the idea that this is something that they'll wake up from one day, that idea must be tantalizing, and I feel for them, but I just can't understand how someone could get to that point.
They're being tortured with hope, and I would just like to end this section on one line that is full of great hope and joy for the entire world.
And what is that line, pray tell?
I'd like some salamanders, please.
I want a salamander. No, have some pie. If you don't know what we're talking about, there's a character called Sandal, who is a special needs dwarf, who I think is not really special needs. I think his nature is going to be revealed, but he's incredibly talented with enchantment, and he has some cool lines. But we are coming up to the half.
It is amusing that Dragon Age is one iconic character is he's the only iconic special needs character in video games, and I want to find someone who thinks this is a bad thing and explain why, because I'm sure there's going to be some sort of argument how the special needs is being exploited in some way, and I'm just curious to see how they would construct their arguments about that.
Well, I mean, the most real explanation that I have heard is that he's lyrium addled. And in Dragon Age, lyrium is a mineral that's mined from the ground that basically is magic in solid form. And there's a merchant that you can talk to in Dragon Age Origins who is kind of scatterbrained, and it's because he used to be a miner, and some lyrium dust, he had an open cut, and lyrium dust got into it, and he became addled. So I think that we may find out that he's not so much special needs as he's lyrium addled. That's what I think. But
yeah, that was what I was thinking after playing the first game.
But then again, if you haven't pestered him in DA2 to get this response, and those of you out there, Google Sandal's prophecy on YouTube, because he gives this really strange prophecy that there's much speculation from us on Reddit where David Yatter's going with that. But
I have not heard the prophecy.
Well, you know what? While we do the music break, you Google that, and then.
Well, I would, but I'm currently lying on my bed with 2 cats on top of me.
Aww. But anyway, we'll see you guys after the break, after another one from Quicksilver.
And we are back. Back like something that comes back. What comes back? That rhymes with back. Heart attack.
That's horrible.
That's true, but sometimes people get more than one. I don't know. I couldn't think of anything else.
You done yet?
Probably.
Alright. So, we're back. So, it's now time for that part of the show that probably nobody likes except us. It's time. Not even you, because you're always snotty to him. It's time for Giovanni's Trivia Fact. And Giovanni, are you with us today?
Yeah, boss, here I am, ready to divulge my knowledge for the internet.
You have no knowledge.
I've got lots of knowledge. Like all sorts of shit. Where do you think I come up with these trivia facts? Jeopardy? Right, yeah, okay, sure. Yeah.
Okay.
So I thought we'd go with film trivia, since, you're, all the film people and everything. So, did you know the world's first feature-length film was Australian? It's true. It's a story of the Kelly gang. It was made in 1906 and told the tale of famous Australian outlaw Ned Kelly. Now, there's no copies that still remain. The oldest surviving feature film is a 1911 adaptation of Dante's Inferno. The book, not the video game. Obviously.
The video game, going back in time, it could totally be adapted.
Time Lords.
Dun dun dun.
But anyway, I'm not going to stick around and wait to be insulted, so I'll see all you adoring public later.
This is my life. Torn between my wife and a lobster. There's probably a fetish for that.
Someone has suggested that the maker in Dragon Age might actually be a powerful Fade demon who's keeping the old gods locked away.
That's possible, or it could be Fenharl, the Dreadwolf.
Yeah.
Although Fenharl also could be Flemeth, so.
Yep.
So, of course, because it's Lesbian Talk, we're going to talk about Dragon Age. That's what we do. We talk about Dragon Age and Doctor Who. Yes, one of my managers at the store, who I've known for years and years and years, because I remember when he started at my first store, he had liked the page, and I said, I have to record later on. He goes, oh, the lesbian thing, right? I said, yeah. And he goes, I have actually never listened to that. I'm like, yeah, it's cool. It's just us, bullshitting around. And he goes, I'm talking about lesbian stuff, like periods. And I was like, no, we're talking about Dragon Age and Doctor Who. And he goes, oh, Doctor Who, I'll listen to that.
I'll tell him that next episode we should be starting with a semi-regular feature where we're going to choose a story from a doctor, watch the story, and then discuss it.
We do.
Yeah.
I'll let him know. I'm not working until next Thursday, so we'll see. But speaking of the bookstore, as I do every episode, it's time for That Time at the Store, or One Time at the Store, or It Happened at the Store. It has a different title every time. But if you're just listening, if you're just tuning in for the first time, for the past 10 years I have worked for a large chain bookstore, and I have seen and heard pretty much everything, and this is one of those times. Now, so something interesting happened this morning. I was actually on my hands and knees down in manga shelving, and my manager came up to me, and he said, "Guess what just happened?" And I said, "I have no idea." So apparently a woman had knocked on the door, and he, opened the door and said, "I'm sorry, we're not open yet." And this was about maybe a half hour before we opened. And our hours are right there, on the window. And she said, "My son has a doctor's appointment. I just need to get one book. So can't you let me in?" And he's like, "No, I can't. Legally, we can't have you in the building beforehand. It's an insurance issue. And second of all, the system's not up. I couldn't sell you or look up anything for you." And she's like, "Well, but he has a doctor's appointment, like, right when you open." And he's like, "Well, can you come back later?" And she's like, "No, we have so much to do today." And he's like, she's like, "Well, can you let me in 5 minutes early?" He said, "No." And eventually that she went away. And so we were talking about that at customer service before we opened. And I said that I could only think of one possible book-related emergency. And that would be that there's a customer actively dying in the parking lot, and you need a Bible so you can conduct a citizen's last rites. And everyone said, "Huh." And nobody else could think of a book-related emergency. So I said, "You know what, I'm going to talk about it on my podcast today. So, honey, can you think of a book-related emergency?"
Yes.
What? Like a real one, not one that you make up.
You just made one up.
No, but I mean like something within the bounds of logic, not bringing like, okay, so these Warhammer dwarves, right? They really want a book, right?
Well, my suggestion was that you would have some sort of very, very angry alien who demands a copy of Let's Speak Cat, or Spoken Cat, by Alexandra Sellers,
well,
and you have to go and get a
print on
copy
demand,
of it.
So it would not be available in the store.
Are you sure it's for print on demand?
Yeah, we don't carry it.
Well, yeah, it's out of print now. But, let's say in the mid-90s, someone wanted a copy and they had to go and get a copy.
Well, if it was a small trade press, most definitely would be in the warehouse. Basically what happens is we have a system called modeling, which means that suppose the book has been out for 3 years and it usually sells pretty well, like 1 or 2 copies every few months. We'll be quote-unquote modeled for that book. Like, we'll always have 1 copy on our shelf. So, like, let's say we're modeled for 5 copies of To Kill a Mockingbird. So if 2 of those copies sell at one weekend, say kids need it for school nearby, distribution will automatically send us 2 more. So when books come out, if they're promoted, if they're new release books, they're not going to be modeled yet because we don't know how they're going to sell. And that's not something we set, that's something the distribution sets. But if it's a book that's, first of all, by a small trade press, so the publisher's not paying for it to be there, and second of all, has sold 100 copies since it came out 15 years ago, if we have one in distribution, you'll be lucky. And 2, we're not going to have it in the store because we frequently go through and scan the entire store, and books that aren't modeled, that have no reason to be there, that aren't selling, get sent back to the publisher. So if somebody needs one, we can order it for them, but it's not going to take up shelf space that could be taken up by a publisher promo from a publisher who's paying for it, or a book that actually will sell.
Okay, well, then
Aha! Aliens, aha.
Okay, what if this alien...
There's no aliens.
Needed to be killed by,
you need to have a real-life, non-alien, scientific, book-related emergency.
Okay, someone's allergic to books. Throw a book at them.
Why would... No.
That's where the term throw the book at them comes from, because in the past there were people who were allergic to books and needed to be killed with books.
You are such a liar. You're a lying liar.
I suspect they were supervillains of some sort. Or you got, I don't know, you got someone who's really, really happy and they're going to explode from happiness, so they need to read something really depressing.
Okay.
So you make them read the entire of the Game of Thrones series, and then eventually they want to kill themselves.
I'm not listening to you anymore with your claptrap. Audience, if you can think of an actual book-related emergency, comment on that guy with glasses or on the blip comments. But I couldn't. That's the best that I could think of. So I guess I win over you. My hypothetical situations.
Thing is, I'm fairly sure the last rites words are not in the Bible, and I'm pretty sure that
then some of them they are. It's one of those weird new translations where they have a whole bunch of crap stuck in the back on the front.
Okay, so you need the right Bible. I'm also fairly sure that you have to be at least a lay preacher or someone to do it.
No, you can give a citizen's last rites as long as, well, in the Catholic faith, as long I don't know. I think it's if someone is imminently dying, as long as you are in a state of grace. I think it's if you are confessed, you can. But in other brands of Christianity, and again, in the comments, let me know if I'm wrong, I think you just have to be a believer to give them last rites.
Interesting.
I think. Because last rites is technically a sacrament of the Catholic Church, but I think that anybody, like, in a pinch, anybody will do, I think. But again, if we're wrong, please let us know. As we often are wrong.
What if Billy Graham is running around being an idiot and you gotta get rid of him, so you need a copy of the Satanic Bible to throw at him?
You could just call the police and say, this man is on the store's public, because the store is private, it's private property.
Yeah, but
it has to be a book-related emergency that you could not figure out in any other different way. I mean, if, like, you needed to know how to do CPR, then you would whip out your smartphone and conduct CPR. Or we're right on a major state road, flag someone down who would have a smartphone or who would know CPR, rather than trying to gain entry to the bookstore to buy a book on it while somebody was dying. See, like I said, if anyone could think of something, let us know.
Well, what if there's like a massive flood, and then you need to go in there and you need to get a copy of the complete unabridged, Lord of the Rings, and the complete unabridged novelization of Peter Jackson's version of The Hobbit? Make a boat out of it.
No, now you're just reaching.
I've been reaching for a while.
I know. So, do you want to talk about the other thing we wanted to talk about today, or are we going to talk about this for the rest of time?
I don't know. And rest of time's a long time. Let's go to the other thing.
Okay. So, I made a purchase on eBay a few weeks ago.
You poor dear.
Well, no, because the thing is, I suddenly, you ever have that thing where you suddenly remember that something exists? Like, oh my gosh, that thing exists, I remember it. Wow, I haven't thought about that thing for 20 years.
Yeah, that's why my Shogun Assassin review exists.
But so, I remembered this toy that I was crazy about when I was a little teeny kid, and they were called M.U.S.C.L.E Men. And
you sent me them, and I'm fairly sure we had them here.
I did, because they're really cool, and they came in this plastic little, like, garbage can kind of thing. And they're just little, like, and they're all, the first two editions, I think, were all this, like, bubblegum flesh-colored pink. And they were just these little guys in little poses, and they were about, like, 2 inches tall. And I think there was some backstory that they were intergalactic wrestlers or something like that. But then they came out with other versions, like, other, waves of them that were blue or red or purple. And I was like, oh my god, I had a billion of these. I haven't seen them in years. So I'm like, I wonder if they still exist. I could, there's a record of this on the internet. So I found a link to a guy on eBay who was selling, in the original plastic garbage can, there was a whole bunch of the original flesh-colored ones, and then some of the red, blue, and purple ones. And the starting bid was $10. But the buy now was $35. And I said, I'm not paying $35 for this, but I'd bid $10. So eventually I bid $12. And then nobody else bid on it for a week. And I won. And I was really happy about that. And I got a package. I was like, oh my god, I'm playing with the little M.U.S.C.L.E Men. And so it made me do a lot of Googling. And there are so many really freaking crazy awesome toys that I totally forgot about, that have lost to the sands of the 80s because they weren't very popular.
Well, yeah, that's all, very connected to the animated series of the 80s, because they were usually made in conjunction with each other. So you find an unfamous cartoon of the 80s, you'll find an unfamous comic, toy series, like Troma's Toxic Crusaders, the kids' adaptation of the Toxic Avenger. It had a kids' show, and it had a toy set.
I remember that.
Yeah,
I didn't have it, I remember it.
Yeah, I don't
technically they were the quote-unquote the men from M.U.S.C.L.E., with every word of M.U.S.C.L.E. capitalized in a period after it, because that's edgy and different.
M.U.S.C.L.E!
Freaking awesome, they really were. But then I've had to Google it, because I remember what they looked like, but I don't remember what their name was. But they were these bug warriors. And it came with, it was like, this bug warrior guy who came on this huge flying wasp or fly mount, and some rode crickets and stuff like that. And I remember being at Sears when I was like 5, so it's like 1985. Like, I want to get that thing. My mom's like, no. I'm like, I really, really want it. And I can't even, I'm scrolling down through this one article trying to, it's Sectaurs.
That one, I think I might have come across them. I have this thing where I really want to collect, like, the DVDs of all these old shows, because I find the genre of 1980s animated toy-based kids shows to be fascinating.
I don't even think that they had a show. The premise was that somewhere in space, somewhere in time, exists a planet called Symbion, where a genetic experiment fails. Frightening changes take place that cannot be stopped. The result, a world where insects and arachnids grow to frightening proportions. A world where the inhabitants have taken on the awesome characteristics of insects and arachnids. Prince Dargon, ruler of the peaceful shining realm of Prosperon, and his allies are in conflict with the forces of Empress Devora, ruler of the dark dominion of... Okay, it's Synax. I thought it was Snax. Synax. And her henchmen for the preservation of the Hives, Hyves, fortress of an ancient civilization holding the key to ultimate power. Each character was telebonded with intelligent, non-anthropomorphic insect creatures called insectoids that had a special ability and sharpened each other's, quote, pleasure and pain.
Well, according to Wikipedia, there was actually a cartoon show, but it only lasted for 5 episodes.
Lol.
So the traditional thing with these was you'd get the original run of 5 episodes, which if it was never picked up as a full series, that would be a separate thing. Like Robotics got a similar thing. But if it did get picked up to a full series, that would basically be like the intro, and then you'd get another 7 episodes for the first season, and then the second season and third would be like 65 episodes, if it did well.
I mean, like, I had a lot of the classic stuff. Like, I had, Voltron and He-Man and Transformers. And yeah, I had a GoBot. But there's just...
I would love the... I have the initial pilot to GoBots on DVD. I want the full series, because...
I remember watching a few episodes and thinking, Optimus Prime is more awesome.
I find the GoBots fascinating because it's so similar to Transformers, but it came out beforehand.
I think we discussed this when we discussed 80s shows.
Yeah, and they've been since bought by Transformers, so what I love is the fact that Transformers now, they will put GoBots into their mythos, like, usually in a very, very insulting way. Like, if they need a character to be killed off on screen, it will, who's going to be there and to make someone else look badass and die gloriously, it's going to be, like, Psykill or Leader One or Coptor or something.
Sure enough. Now, I found them listed on one list called 12 Toys from the 80s that didn't take off. So I remember a few of these, so I'm gonna hit you up with them and see if you remember. The Food Fighters, which was from Mattel, which came out in 88, 89, were basic like anthropomorphic pizza and hot dogs and stuff, and they had little things that shot. And I remember these, I do.
Wow, the Inhumanoids DVD is selling for £40, and I got mine for like £2 at the Forbidden Planet in London years ago.
You win. Do you remember Barnyard Commandos?
No.
Okay, I remember that. It was from 1989. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Army Ants. They came out in 87. And they were basically like orange plastic ants with like accessories. And they were kind of like army men, but they're ants. Yeah. So we have Sectaurs. And Sectaurs actually 84, 85. Okay, so I was right in my memory. Because I was a little kid then. Oh, Rock Lords. Do you remember Rock Lords?
I do, and I also remember GoBots versus Rock Lords, the
one of them, and
film they had.
Eventually, a little part got broken, and I couldn't break them apart. They were awesome. Basically, Rock Lords were made by Tonka, came out in 86, 87, and they look like these little wads of plastic, but they were actually rocks that transformed into little guys.
There's a series here called Black Star, which I do not recall seeing, but it looks like Conan the Barbarian if he was crossed with He-Man.
Now, they have one that I think I was too little for, because it came out in 82. The Saga of Crystar, Crystal Warrior.
That one I don't know. Okay. Have you ever seen Ulysses 31?
We have talked about this so many damn times on this show.
Okay. I'm sorry,
they have Inhumanoids. They have the toys right here.
Ah.
And the purple one looks vaguely familiar, but I don't think any of my friends had it.
I was watching, Inhumanoids is set in the same universe as Transformers and G.I. Joe, and M.U.S.C.L.E and GoBots, well, although M.U.S.C.L.E and GoBots were bought by Hasbro, but in the animated series, so there was little crossovers, and what was really amusing was the guy wearing pink looked just like Professor Xavier, but he had the personality of classic Wolverine, which was very amusing.
Oh, did you have a sit and spin?
No.
Do you know what that is?
No.
I think that these actually date to the late 70s, but it was like this little teeny disc, and you sat down on it, and like you curled your legs around the disc, so you were sitting down entirely on the disc, like I guess if you wanted to sit on a Roomba, that's the kind of thing that you would do. And then you gripped the center disc, and you spun that, and the center disc was tied by an axle to the disc you were sitting on, so you would basically spin yourself until you threw up, really. Sit and spin. It's a thing.
Did you ever see the toys for or watch the show of Visionaries?
No.
Visionaries was great.
Apparently there was a Police Academy line of toys.
Yeah, there was an animated series. One thing, whenever we did the Police Academy marathon, I tried my best to get a copy of a couple of episodes of the live-action Police Academy and the animated one, just so we could do a video on that, but I couldn't find any.
Oh, well, we'll probably sane her for it. And I'm trying to think of stuff that I had. Did you guys have pogo balls? AKA how to break a child's ankle.
No.
Basically, it was, imagine like a rubber ball about the size of a kickball, but thicker. And then around its perimeter, like as if it were, it had like a ring, kind of like Saturn. So imagine that around its hemisphere. That's it.
Oh, you sit on it.
You stood on that, and you gripped with the insoles of your feet. You gripped the ball, and you bounced on the ball until you fell off and broke your ankle.
I think I saw that actually. Yeah, I think
there were ones that you could sit down and bounce on, and those were kind of cool. I remember them.
My favorite of the 1980s toys is still Transformers. I have a really big collection of Transformers, some of which are older than me. It's not very well organized because there's too many of them for the top of the wardrobe, so they're in a bit of a pile, but they're kept up there where hopefully the cats will not try to climb on top of them. Although my previous cat, Lady, at some points did leap up there, and she did try to do death to the battle to the death with Optimus Prime.
Oh, poor Prime. I'm trying to think of some other stuff that I had a lot of. I didn't have a lot. I had some of the G.I. Joe action figures, but they didn't transform, so they didn't hold my attention for very long. I really wasn't a Barbie gal at all. I could never really get into Barbie.
And there was the toys of what do you call it? He-Man and Thundercats and all had good toys.
Yeah, I had Battle Damage He-Man. You know what I had? I desperately wanted Castle Grayskull, but it was too expensive. I had the He-Man shield, like a child-sized shield, and the glow-in-the-dark sword, which I would run around. When I was really little, I had my parents got me a set. It was Wonder Woman underpants and an undershirt. So I would run around with Wonder Woman underpants and an undershirt, with He-Man sword and shield, declaring that I have the power. And I'm sure that was just charming when I was supposed to be taking a nap. I'm from Eternia. Excuse me. I have the power. Oh, really? Yes.
There
were a lot of toys that I remember really wanting, and then when I got them, they were not really what I anticipated. Like, there was this game called Gotcha, and I saw it on TV, and I wanted it so much. And basically, like the old ball and chain that prisoners kind of wear?
Mm-hmm.
Well, it was like that. So you had the top part of the ball was a policeman who popped out. So what would happen was you would attach the plastic chain cuff to your wrist, and then you would put down the thing, and you never knew when he was going to pop up. That was the thing, and you would roll the dice. And then if you got is either a certain number, or if you got a freedom picture or whatever, you took it off, and the next person put it on. And if you were the one wearing the cuff, when the policeman popped up, you were out, or you lost, or I don't really remember what the consequences were. But I wanted this, and I asked for it. But it was a really nerve-wracking game, because I would get twitchy when I thought the policeman would pop up, and I stopped playing with it.
Aww.
Same thing with Operation. I wanted Operation. I saw that commercial. It looked like the coolest game ever. But, the noise, the buzz noise when the metal made contact freaked me out so much that basically I never actually played with it. I just made piles out of the surgeon's fee money and then made little statues with the bones.
This is a little bit earlier than the 80s, but I recall loving, and I still have some of them, the Captain Scarlet action figures from
Captain Scarlet is creepy. I don't like it.
No. Terrahawks is creepy. Captain Scarlet is badass.
No, they're both creepy. I don't like that style. It's upsetting.
It's possibly
they're going to eat you in the night.
I'm one of the many generations of UK-based children that grew up with that sort of thing and puppets and marionation. So
here in America, we have liberty, so we don't have to deal with your Uncanny Valley puppets.
So for us, when we see puppets, we see wholesome adventures involving, Jerry Anderson helping people save the day.
And we see Chucky.
And I'm like, but it's Captain Scarlet. Like Chucky, he can't be killed, but it's Captain Scarlet.
Upsetting.
And, Captain Black might be a zombie, but, it's Captain Scarlet.
Oh, did you guys go through the gross phase of the 80s where, like, everything had to have ooze or slime or some kind of, like, polymer thing that came with it?
Only a couple of things were like that.
We had a lot, like, there was Nickelodeon Gak, which stained pretty much everything. You could even get snot, but some people call them snot balls or paintballs or whatever. You could get for 25 cents from like machines at little vending machines at the supermarket, a little thing full of some kind of like snotty kind of polymer substance to play with.
I remember Silly Putty.
Well, Silly Putty's as old as time.
Well, it was over here. It was only mainstream, I want to say, for a certain amount of time.
Really? That's interesting.
You can get it like in like science museums and stuff or whatever.
Well, you can get it online. You can actually get like a fucking big ton of it online if you want. But
yeah,
the one thing I didn't like about Silly Putty, it was fine for a while. Like you can transfer newspaper, but after you did that, then it became gray and gross, and then it got full of hairs. I'm like, all right, enough fun with Silly Putty, throwing away now.
One of the things I always used to play with as a child, I had a ball of blue tack. And
what's blue tack?
Blue tack is like sticky text if you pick posters up with.
Oh, yeah, we have that, but I think it's just called... I don't even actually know what... I had some in college, but I don't know what it's called. I mean, you could buy it at the bookstore.
Yeah, and I would, make shapes out of it and stuff, create things, and I'm sure in my room somewhere I've still got like a big ball of it, which it's an entertaining thing to play with.
Which is old enough that it's gained its own sentience.
Probably.
Yeah. I had a Slinky, but they're older than the 80s. Although Slinkies were, like, I wanted one because I saw the commercial, and the one that I had a metal one, and eventually I had a rainbow-colored plastic one. But the problem with Slinky is that it would go down one stair and then stop. Then you have to go, come on, Slinky, and then down, and we'd go another stair and stop. And then you just play with it in your hands for a while until it developed a kink or one of them got, like, crossed, and then it was the end of Slinky.
I had part of a Slinky, but I straightened it.
Like, with hair curlers? Or, like, hair irons?
With my ability to impersonate Egon Spengler.
Oh, I don't know when you're quoting movies. You could, like, speak in movie quotes for days, and I wouldn't know.
I could, actually.
You probably could.
Ooh, IO9 says, scientists have confirmed the heaviest metal ever observed. Anal Nathrak. Nah.
That has nothing to do with 80s toys.
Unseptium.
Well, that sounds impressive.
See, that sounds like an 80s cartoon, Alien Planet.
That actually does.
We are the monsters from Unseptium. We are going to invade the happy place.
Well, I mean, that's the thing. I mean, really, a lot of these shows had pretty bullshit premises.
They all had the same premise, just with one thing that was unique to them. Like, Transformers, they are alien robots that turn into cars, which is... And then you got Visionaries, which is like, it's after the apocalypse and science doesn't work anymore, so everything's magical now, so some guys can transform into animals. Which was Visionaries. Although, I never understood, with Visionaries, their toys, they gave you the action figures, so these guys had holograms on their chests, and the hologram depicted the animal they can turn into. Which is cool, but they never gave you the animal version in the box with them. Like, the guy turns into a lion, and it's a blue lion because he's good, and green is the symbol color of evil for some reason. But they don't give you a blue lion, so you can be all like, I'm turning into a lion, rah!
Because that's, an extra $10 of 80s money. Well.
Silly people.
Yeah, I had a lot of the She-Ra Princess of Power toys. I didn't like She-Ra as much as He-Man. I know I've said that before, but... I mean, I feel like a bad feminist for saying that, but...
From rewatching it, She-Ra seems to have had better writing.
Well, the thing is that She-Ra, like, okay, here's the thing with He-Man. He-Man was, like, pretty awesome, and his friends were, alright, pretty cool. Sometimes they did stupid things, but whatever. But She-Ra kind of strikes me as, like, Xena Warrior Princess living in the movie Idiocracy. Like, her friends are literally the worst companions ever. Alright, the Doctor would have, like, torpedoed them onto Skaro if he could. Like, She-Ra was the only competent person in that whole goddamn kingdom, and everybody else was a fuck-up.
I always looked at it like...
saying.
I always looked upon it like He-Man is a planet full of muscle gays. Or butch gays. And She-Ra is the planet full of femme gays.
Yeah, because she had that friend of hers. He was like, oh my gosh, She-Ra, you're so cool, and I'm in love with you, because, like, we're opposite genders, and it's the 80s, so I have to kind of pretend. And that, like, friend of hers that was obviously, like, her friends with benefits situation, that's psychic, she was an idiot, too. And they had that little gremlin, that little rainbow-powered, fluffy, fruit-flavored little gremlin guy. Who had, like, Orko was cool, because Orko had, like, like a character arc. Like, he had flaws, and his toy was cool, because Orko came on a ripcord. He would go spinning all over the place, because I got Orko for my 5th birthday. But yeah, like, and Orko at the end would give, like, your little lesson and stuff like that. But the other little guy, he was so obnoxious. Like, he would be hiding in one of the cells, one of the scenes, and you had to pick out where he was, and he'd always go, "Did you see me now? Here I am. In today's episode, we learn how everyone's a fuck-up."
That was Cowl, I think.
The little owl-looking, eerie kind of... He had huge ears, but he had, like, gremlin fluff, and I don't even know.
Yeah, that was Cowl.
Young Omega did not approve.
Cowl wasn't even as good as Gwildor from Masters of the Universe, the movie.
He was puntable. That's what the little asshole was. If you disagree, write the show. But as we're coming up on the end, so this week we are going to do the dictionary. Because, goddammit, I got it down off the bookshelf. So, alright, I have the Oxford American Dictionary. What page shall I turn to?
2.
That's like the introduction. Hold on.
Ooh.
Actually, no, the introduction has Roman numerals. But you always pick the beginning of the alphabet. I can't. The first page is 3. I'm serious. It's Oxford American Dictionary. There's a blank page. A, and the first page is 3. Pick again. Try something
So, literally, I chose the only blank page.
Stop breaking the dictionary. Choose something in the triple digits.
Okay. 901.
I don't think there's a 901.
Oh, god damn it.
It goes up to 800 something. Try again.
800.
I will beat you like a red-headed stepchild.
You're being racist against Irish people.
You're not even Irish, you're Scottish.
And Irish and Scottish are the same race.
Well, there's no one in your family is observable with red hair, so...
How do you know?
Because I've met them.
Have you met all of my family?
No, I've met the ones that count. Alright, so 1 or 2?
2.
Alright. Out of 24.
21.
Okay.
Because let's talk about She-Ra. I'm just reminded of the bit in the heavy metal review.
We used this one already.
We did?
Want. Accustomed. He was wont to go to bed early. Want. A habit or custom. Pick again.
Okay, then same page, but 15.
Alright.
So reminded of all the heavy metal review where you had Tarna from heavy metal, and it was my idea for a joke, but
so,
She-Man, I'm the big-titted mistress of killing shit.
You done? So do you want to know what we got?
Oh dear.
Women folk. Women in general. The woman of one's family. Women folk. So I guess we're going to have to take it all feminist next week and talk about periods, or I don't know.
All feminist and talk about the radical notion that women are equal.
I don't want to get into it, but anyway.
Oh, I just saw one of my cats smacking the other one.
Rainbows.
One of the cats was just lying there being all like, "Hey, motherfucker, I'm a cat." And then the other cat was like, "I'm not having any of this." And she's like, "Smack, smack." And then the other one's like, "You missed my tail. You just hit my fur. You're pathetic."
You have the most interesting life. Just saying.
I get to narrate the cats.
I know. So, at any rate, we'll see you guys next week. I have been the Omega, and who would you want to have been this week?
Tarna, the big-titted mistress of killing shit.
That works. We'll see y'all next week.